Doctor Who Pyramids of Mars, the 8th story of the 4th Doctor, is written by Stephen Harris, a pseudonym used by Lewis Griefer and Robert Holmes, and starring Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen. So the story took inspiration from the 1932 The Mummy film, and especially the Hammer horror films, the 1959 The Mummy, and Blood from the Mummy's Tomb.
The ever evil. Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, rated PG.
So Robert Holmes, the script editor, approached Lewis Griefer to write the story, but it was considered as unusable as a Doctor Who script. Even after a lot of rewrites and Griefer wasn't familiar with Doctor Who, Holmes took over, with Griefer retaining the option to have the name on the script. While he retained the basic premise, he completely altered other aspects, which includes making the Osirans a powerful alien race, and have the story set in 1911 instead of present day. The pseudonym used to transmission was Stephen Harris. So the story opens at Egypt in 1911, where Professor Scarman walks inside the Chamber of Pyramids, but then strikes by a green light, which is a great open. The story depicted ancient Egyptian pyramids as extraterrestrial in origin. There's an iconic scene where the Doctor stands beside his console, Sarah Jane wearing one of Victoria Waterfield's dress. The Doctor explains that he's not human. He complains that he doesn't want to hang around with Brigadier in the unit anymore, which is one of the things that Tom Baker did so well, because it shows that the Doctor is an alien.
I'm a Time Lord.
Oh, I know you're a Time Lord.
You don't understand the implications. I'm not a human being. I walk in eternity.
While the TARDIS malfunctions, Sarah Jane sees a hologram of Osiris, which looked pretty cool. The TARDIS landed inside Scarman's mansion, which later be built as Unit HQ as the years go on. Collins and Dr. Warlock have put a suspicion on Namine because Marcus Scarman was missing, and I love the scene where the Doctor and Sarah Jane met Collins and the Doctor was like, "I believe this property was for sale." That was funny. So Collins gave the Doctor and Sarah Jane a heads up, warned Dr. Warlock, so they got out. And there was a terrifying scene where the mummy got out the sarcophagus and strangled Collins to death. As Dr. Warlock confronts Naaman, the Doctor tackled him as he shot Dr. Warlock in the right chest, instead of fatally. So the Doctor and Sarah Jane helped Warlock out. Sarah Jane goes to find Lawrence, while Naaman and a mummy goes on search. And I love the music in that scene, where it's really an intense stealth. After a while, Naaman and the mummy was summoned on organ sound and called off the hunt. So Sarah Jane brought Lawrence to take Dr. Warlock inside the lodge. The Doctor analyses Marcanoscope, a primitive form of radio telescope. The Doctor learns that Sutekh may have something to do with the situation. When Sarah Jane says she's from 1980, that really started the whole controversial of 1970s and 80s. Like which decade was it set in while John Pertwee was working in UNIT, despite the invasion was set in 1971. And it does show in the modern series, like when David Tennant's the 10th Doctor tells Donna in the Centauran Stratagem that he did used to work in UNIT. He was like, yeah, a long time ago, it was back in the 70s, or was it the 80s? And even Kate Stewart in The Day of the Doctor, when she's like, pass me the incident of file that happened in the 70s or 80s, code words, chroma, which was the Three Doctors. I love the organ sound. It's one of the greatest soundtracks in the classic era. It really does sound like something you hear when a god descended. The cliffhanger where the so-called Sutekh, which is actually a servant of Sutekh, walks down the steps and the smoke comes out of his feet, that was one of the best practical effects in Doctor Who. And I'm not just saying that. And especially when he puts his hands on Naaman and burn him to death and the smoke comes out. That cliffhanger was just... that was definitely well done. I would be terrified if I saw that in real life.
I bring Sutek's gift of death to all humans.
So the servant turns himself into a sinister-looking animated corpse of Marcus Scarman. Lawrence believed his brother is alive. The Doctor kept reminding him that he's not Marcus anymore, he's already dead, since the beginning of this story. So the force field surrounded the mansion, and Sutek orders Scarman to build an Osiren war missile. While they do so, the Doctor, Sarah Jane and Lawrence went inside that room, and it was pretty effective, where the Doctor almost got pulled through the space-time tunnel, and then he passed out due to the energy discharge, so the trio hid inside a cupboard for a while. And it was funny the way Clemens slipped over because he bumped into the force field. And it was horrifying and emotional, where Marcus Scarman got one of the robot mummy to strangle poor Dr. Warlock to death. It is pretty messed up when you think about it, the fact that they were childhood friends. So Clemens witnessed that event. He shot Marcus, but the bullets didn't kill him. And it was so cool the way the smoke reversed back inside him. And there's a suspenseful scene where Clemens outruns the mummy around the woods. And there's a cool bit where the Doctor took Sarah Jane and Lawrence to the alternative 1980 to see what planet Earth would be like if Sutek wasn't stopped. And it's pretty scary.
It's a trick!
After the Doctor wakes up, he plans to use the machine to knock Marcus off, and because Lawrence eavesdropped and refused to believe that his brother is dead, he messed up with the machine to try and save him. So there was an intense cliffhanger where the robot mummies came to attack the Doctor, Sarah Jane and Lawrence, after Clemens was killed. However, when I first watched it, I knew Sarah Jane and the Doctor would have survived this scene because I've watched School Reunion before I saw this story. Tom Baker is brilliant as the Fourth Doctor, as always. Normally he makes a joke about a lot of things, but in this story, he's really serious about the situation, and Tom did so well. I love Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, one of my favourite companions. She really has great chemistry with Tom, and I do buy that they are best friends. Gabriel Wolfe plays Sutek, also known as Sutek the Destroyer, who is also the god of death, who's a very powerful Osiren who plans to destroy the entire life in the universe. I absolutely love that villain. He's absolutely terrifying, and Gabriel is so good in this.
I am Sutek the Destroyer. Where I tread, I leave nothing but dust and darkness. I find that good.
Apparently, Sutek's race is pronounced Osiren throughout the serial. The scripts and publicity material spelt it as Osirian in some places and as Osiran in others. Gabriel returned to voice Sutek in audio stories by Magic Bullet Productions and Big Finish Productions in 2015.
I won't be so easily dismissed. I am Sutek the Destroyer.
And obviously the Series 14 two-parter story, The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death in 2024.
I am Sutek, the god of death.
Gabriel also voiced the Beast in a two-parter story in Series 2, The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit in 2006.
You will die, and I will live.
The Osiren Servitors, aka Osiren Service Robots, as the Doctor calls them, were obedient robots that resembled mummies, used by Osirens like Sutek as servants. And I thought they're pretty terrifying, they're absolutely thrilling. Bernard Archard plays Professor Marcus Scarman, who is an archaeologist, and after when he was killed, his corpse gets animated into a heartless undead villain. He's absolutely phenomenal. The makeup is fantastic, he's really sinister. Christopher Benjamin, Maurice Kaufman, Leonard Sachs and Peter Welch were considered for the role. So Bernard Archard, who previously played Brogan in The Power of the Daleks, was casted due to his work on the 1970 The Horror of Frankenstein movie. Michael Sheard plays Lawrence Scarman, who's a scientist and Professor Marcus Scarman's brother. He's great. He does feel like a companion at times, until towards the end of part 3. Maurice Kaufman and Reg Pritchard were considered for the role. Michael Sheard, who previously played Ross in The Ark and Dr. Summers in The Mind of Evil, was casted. As Peter Grimways, the production assistant, recommended him for the role because of his performance in Lord Peter Wimsey. And of course, Sheard played 7 roles in Doctor Who. He later played Lo in The Invisible Enemy, Murgrave in Castrovalva, the Headmaster in Remembrance of the Daleks, and in a Big Finish audio, The Stones of Venice, he voiced Orsino. Peter Copley plays Dr. Warlock, a physician, and he's been good friends with Professor Marcus Scarman since childhood. I really like him, he's really canny. It is such a shame to see him getting killed off. John Wentworth and Martin Dempsey were considered for the role. Peter Mayak plays Ibrahim Naiman, a high priest of the cult of the Black Pyramid. He's a brilliant villain. Renu Setner and Mike Lewin were considered for the role. Michael Bilton plays Josiah Collins, a butler, and I do like him, he's really canny as well. Arthur Hewlett and Jeffrey Seagal were considered for the role. George Tovey plays Ernest Clemens, a poacher, he's great too. Chubby Oates, Mostyn Evans and Freddie Earle were considered for the role. George Tovey, in real life, is the daughter of Roberta Tovey, who played Susan in Doctor Who Dalek films, starring Peter Cushing, which is cool. Vic Tablian plays Ahmed, who works for Professor Scarman, he's great too. The character wasn't given a name in both the serial and novel written by Terrance Dicks. Ahmed's death mentioned only in the book, but never explored in the televised version. So maybe it's not 100% the same as Horror of the Fan Rock, where everyone except the Doctor and his companion dies. The casts are brilliant. The sets, music by Dudley Simpson, and direction by Paddy Russell is fantastic. The effects is good for its time. As the Doctor, Sarah Jane and Lawrence were about to get killed by robot mummies, Sarah Jane uses the ring which deactivate one of them, while the others got out. The Doctor had to remind Lawrence that Marcus isn't himself anymore. While the Doctor and Sarah Jane got outside to turn off the force field, Lawrence unwraps the robot mummy. Sutek found out about the force field, so Marcus confronts Lawrence. So Lawrence tried so hard to convince Marcus who he thought he is, that he's Professor Marcus Scarman, and sadly Marcus strangled Lawrence to death. And it was so funny when the Doctor and Sarah Jane were inside a shed. Sarah Jane passed the Doctor a box and said one sneeze could set it off, and Sarah Jane realised there's no bombs and perhaps the Doctor sneezed. Oh, something's coming up. Oh. Achoo! Please excuse the alternative timeline. The Doctor disguised himself as a mummy to blow up pyramids that would set a missile off. After he placed the box on it, Sarah Jane shot it, but the fire reversed back. As Sutek was cancelling out the explosion, the Doctor needed to get to Sutek, so he did. After the pyramids have exploded, Sutek strikes the Doctor with his eyes, which is terrifying. Sutek tortures the Doctor, getting him to tell him who he is. Marcus and the mummies have captured Sarah Jane. Sutek ordered them to kill her, but the Doctor begged him not to do it, so Sutek changed his mind because he believes that Sarah Jane could be useful for something. TARDIS key gets transported to the mansion. The Doctor gets possessed so he can take Marcus and the mummies plus Sarah Jane to the pyramids of Mars. After that, the mummy strangled the Doctor as he's no longer useful, and it was amusing where Sarah Jane thought the Doctor was dead at first, so when she cried, the Doctor was like, "You're soaking my shirt." The Doctor said his respiratory bypass system allowed him to avoid death, so he and Sarah Jane goes to find Marcus. And I love that there's puzzle games to open the door. The glass tube trapped Sarah Jane, so the Doctor needs to find out which two mummies with yellow ribbons around them is the true Guardian, pointing at two buttons. One of them sets Sarah Jane free and the other one destroys.
This is the riddle of the Osiris. Which is the guardian of life?
Which indeed.
Luckily, Sarah Jane is free. Then Osiris Service robots killed Marcus, with his body burned into dust. Sutekh is free. The Doctor and Sarah Jane got back to that mansion, as Sutekh was trying to come through but couldn't reach. The Doctor used a device attached to the space-time tunnel to send Sutekh away.
The time of the Osirans is long past.
Believing he'll live 7,000 years, which of course we find out in the Empire of Death. Sutekh will be clinging onto the TARDIS, starting from the events of the Pyramids of Mars. So the mansion blows up, as well as space-time tunnel, so the Doctor and Sarah Jane got out. This is a fantastic serial. It's absolutely thrilling. What did you think of Pyramids of Mars? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.